If you tuned in, it's another episode of Resume Wars. Again, I always feel like I'm saying that really like professional, like Resume Wars, like it makes a difference. Anyways, I'm Chris. Again, glad you all could join us today. Joining us to help pick apart the two resumes, again, with the names have been changed, but the positions and overall idea is legit. It's an actual resume. We've got Gustavo, we've got Jessica, and we've got Amy. Again, let's get it kicked right off here. We've got Sandra Bullock versus Ryan Reynolds. I'm going to start with Jessica today. Let's start with Sandra. What are your thoughts on Sandra, Miss Congeniality herself?
Yeah, Miss Congeniality. I love her. And I really, really, really wanted to love this cool little colorful collage thing. I've tried so hard to love it because it's creative and, you know, it looks pretty neat, but I do not like it on the resume at all.
Here's the deal. I don't need y'all to approve my choices, all right? But I do ask that you respect them.
I think it would be a really neat, like, LinkedIn, you know, background cover photo, but that thing needs to come off the resume. It's just so distracting. I can't take my eyes off of it. But when I do get past that, the formatting looks really great. It's very congruent. You know, I love the bullet points. Everything is consistent. Well, there are some bullet points that are actually inconsistent. So let me take that back a little bit. But I like the bullet points in general, and I think that the resume format is pretty good. Font size changes a little at the bottom of the resume. It randomly goes, like under the award section, it goes from 11 to like 12 and a half and then to 13. So just little things like that I would notice. So making sure, like we've talked about before on the show, is always just do a once over. You know, this resume, it represents you wholeheartedly. So it has to be putting your best foot forward. So just making sure that the font is the same size. I think that, yeah, that was the main thing. And then she also has a 6-year gap from 1999 to 2005.
Yep.
I'm okay with the gap, but I would want to see what did you do? Maybe just put like a little blurb, you know, if you were a stay-at-home mom or you took care of a sick parent, like those things happen and life is messy and we understand that, but I still would just love to see what you were doing during those 6+ years. And then I think a lot of the pros for Sandra is she has a lot of numbers in her resume. I love some numbers, tells really great stories. I love that she included that. I think that she has some great context too, a lot of meat behind her responsibilities. So I liked that as well. And then I also loved the little blurb. So a couple of the companies she had, it says exactly what the company was, right? So it was an independent, like 777 all-suite resort, and she did that for a lot of them. She didn't do it looks like, for the last 2, so I'd be curious as to why she stopped doing that. But as a recruiter, I love to see a little blurb of exactly what the company does or how large they are. I think that gives me a good idea of, you know, the size of the company and the responsibility. So overall, I think she has some little things that she could tweak to make this, you know, go from maybe like a B resume to an A. And the first thing would definitely be to take away that collage picture. So.
Yeah, I agree. And preach it when it comes to the gap in employment. I would just say that right now. Gustavo, what are your thoughts on Sandra?
Agree pretty much with everything that Jessica stated. A couple of things that stand out. So first, the gap issue, right? The gap, employment gap. You can get rid of that by simply not putting the 1984 to 1999 job.
That's a great point.
Anything prior to 2000, frankly, I'm probably not interested. Same thing when it comes to the education. She puts the year. You know, unfortunately, some people are biased and have certain prejudices. So they see that, they think old, so I will get rid of that. Yep. Also, she formats at least the second page under a table, under a table. And that, when you try to put it through an ATS, the ATS is going to have a hard time reading it.
And today is the first time in my life that I did not give 1,000% on the job, and I hate that feeling.
And then the last thing that I would say is the inconsistency of the bullet points. If you look at page 2, the bullet points then grow. It's like all of a sudden they become this big. This resume can easily fit in 2 pages. Even, if you remove the top, which takes half of the page already, you can decrease it to 2 pages. But the numbers are there. The summaries are great. I agree with Jessica on that. It's just a little bit hard to read because there's so much, and there's formatting issues that kind of distract you from the content, and you certainly don't want that on a resume.
Absolutely. Good point. Amy, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah. Don't disagree with anything my esteemed colleagues have shared so far. I will say the immediate overload of color explosion here, the only thing going for it is it does remind me of my kid's alma mater. She's a Husky, go UW, gold and purple. Other than that, this is doing nothing for her. So Sandra, speed is not on your side, girlfriend. Slow down. Look at those bullet points. There's some bullet points here. For example, oversaw and managed cross-functional projects.
Pretty, huh?
Yeah, how do you refuse that sales pitch, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't do much.
I don't know what that means. I don't know how this helps you. So I would actually take, because I do love the little mini summaries, right, under each of at least the first few jobs. Girl, that's your meat. Get rid of everything else.
Yep.
There's very little of value, unfortunately, in the actual bullet points themselves. And it's mostly kind of front-loaded in that paragraph. But then you have the problem of, well, it's a paragraph and there's a lot of them, and it's kind of hard to read. So I'm struggling with that a little bit. I think this person has some tremendous experience, but it's packaged like my husband wrapped Christmas presents. I mean, it's a hot mess.
But it's a gift.
Nobody's having fun unwrapping this.
Yeah.
This needs an overhaul because I think she's great. I do. Yeah. I think she's great, but this resume is not telling her story.
Yeah. I could not agree more. First of all, to echo what everyone said, for Sandra, I think the opening part here is like a Rorschach. For those that I see a bird. First of all,
got it.
Thank you. Yes, I know my jokes have a half-life. But the bigger issue here is really bullet points. I like the information, lots of data, but just for example, I'm counting for the 2 if by C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 bullet points for that first job. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for the second. Great bullet points, Batman. There's just too many there. So I think, don't get me wrong, a couple bullet points are great, but let's tone it down, and I think that'll help her take this down to a fewer pages and make it a little easier to read.
Yeah, more focus on accomplishments and less on duties.
Exactly.
I don't care
Agreed.
about that.
Now, my timer says we have about 6 minutes left on this. So let's roll through our favorite man here, Ryan Reynolds, if we will. Amy, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts on Mr. Ryan Reynolds?
Oh, look at the scowl on that woman's face.
This one breaks my heart. This makes me sad. This is a sad resume.
So
I am
sad
for having read it. There is just nothing here. The font is super tiny. It's focused on the duties. I served as a department head. Okay. I mean, what? Oh, so yeah, Ryan just needs to light this on fire and start over.
Yep.
Yeah.
My concern with Ryan's resume, he should have a big sponsor on his resume, okay? And the top, I'm not talking about the certifications. No. I'm talking about his resume should be sponsored by LinkedIn, because that's exactly where his resume came from.
It felt like the right thing to do.
Okay? When I look at this resume, I don't see someone personally having written a resume. I see someone taking a resume and exporting off of LinkedIn and then sending the resume that way. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I see. And so it by default, whenever you take these resumes and export them out, you get not nice stuff. And that's my first concern for that. Second of all is when I'm looking at his resume, Smoke and Aces Hotel, 4 months. Hilton Boltneck, 1 year and 9 months. The Alarmist Hotel, 1 year. Man, longevity, okay?
Yeah.
I have shoes that are older than some of the jobs that you've been in. And I have a problem with that if you're growing in your career and what have you. I can see that you're a coordinator, an assistant, and then a banquet manager. I can assume that you went to grow through it, and I can assume, but why'd you leave in February from the Alarmist Hotel after being there for a year? Again, to Jessica's point from before a previous show, talk about why you left.
Mm-hmm.
That was my concern for that. So those are my knocks for Ryan. That being said, when it comes to it, I believe we have Jessica. You talked about it already, I believe. Before, what are your thoughts on Ryan's resume?
Man, Ryan's resume is no bueno. It is just not great. The formatting just stinks. And I think, like Amy had said, he doesn't say anything that he's done, really. There's no substance to his bullet points or lack thereof bullet points, right? I mean, so I don't like Ryan's resume at all. I think that he needs to sit down and really do some hardcore internalizing of what his accomplishments are and get them on paper.
I explained to her, I was like, look, that's a huge burden on your nervous system.
And just put his best foot forward a little bit better on this one. And then there's all kinds of weird spacing all over the place too. I think, half of the first page on my end is like blank. I don't know why it's like that,
same.
but that's just a laziness thing too. This should be highlighting you and be your best piece of work. And if this is the best that Ryan can offer, I don't know anyone that's going to want to bring Ryan on board. So
yeah, I would agree. I think that also has a lot to do with the LinkedIn. Again, being converted out there. When you convert LinkedIn, or for those of us who've ever dealt with Indeed resumes.
Oh,
yes.
the worst. Oh.
Okay. Gustavo, what are your thoughts on Mr. Reynolds?
Well, Ryan has the big problem because if this is coming from LinkedIn, not only the resume needs a lot of work, his LinkedIn profile also needs a lot of work, which is even worse. So I can picture Ryan at home saying, either crying, why is it that I am not getting phone calls for jobs? Or Ryan could be at home saying, my resume says it all. Either is not accurate and reflective of what Ryan is capable of doing, because the resume you take this resume, I would have taken this resume, looked at it for 2 seconds and just moved on. It just, there's nothing. The formatting is horrible, as we discussed. But Ryan has, as a matter of fact, I'm going to invite Ryan, regardless if he wins or not. I'm going to work with Ryan because Sandra has that big thing on the top, but at least you get over that and you see something. This one, you can't get over anything. It's just not a good resume.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. Well, we do have to pull the Band-Aid off, if you will. So let's go through the table here. I'm going to start with Jessica. Who would you pick, Ryan or Sandra?
Drum roll. I'm gonna go with Sandra, Miss Congeniality herself. Gotta do it.
Herself. All right. Amy, who are you going with?
All right, I'm giving Sandra 28 days to fix this mess and get rid of the word cloud, but she gets my vote.
Yes, that's right.
That's right. Gustavo.
Sandra.
All right. And I will make it a clean sweep. Sandra gets the vote. Ryan, unfortunately, wow, just like your resume, your time on this show is too short.
He's in the Hall of Fame of bad resumes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, again, I appreciate everyone's time. We're out of time. Again, Sandra gets the vote. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Resume Wars.